Alright, hello everybody, welcome back to another Python introduction tutorial. This video is going to be about if loops, for loops, while loops, and the try except function. So without further ado, let's get started. So what's an if loop? An if loop is basically a conditional statement. We say something like if 3 is less than 5, then we can set a condition, for example, if 3 equals 5. Remember, we know if 3 is less than 5, so our condition will be true. And what happens if our condition is true? We can specify what we want to happen. So we can just say print condition condition is true. We click run, and we forgot our colon. It's always important to remember to get your colons every time you have a orange text in PyCharm. So we're going to click run again, and the condition is true because 3 is less than 5. What happens if the condition is not true? Basically, we would have to use an else statement, because if we just typed in, for example, 5 is less than 3, we would get nothing. Because it would not print, because it's assuming that if 5 is less than 3, then it would print, but 5 is not less than 3. So what we can do is we can type in else. We can type in print. The condition is not true. And we'll click run. And it gives us back the condition is not true. Another thing we can use is something called an elif statement. We can say something like if 5 is less than 3, elif say 4 is less than 3, else print no condition is true. We're going to go ahead and run this. Forgot our colon again. Alright, small mistake here. We put the inequality in the execute portion. We can say print condition is true. Click run. And we need to move over our colon. And it gives us back no condition is true. Because again, we have 5 is not less than 3, we're not printing condition is true. 4 is not less than 3, we're not printing condition is true. And we have condition is true. Now, what happens if the final thing we can use with if statements is we can use the or thing. So we can use if 5 is less than 3, or, well, actually it's not the final thing we can do. We can do something like 3 is less than 5, then use the and modifier. So if 3 is less than 5 and 5 is less than 7, we can say that print condition is true. And the condition is true because both 3 and 5, 3 is less than 5, and 5 is less than 7. So we're going to click run. It should give us back the condition is true. And it does. Now again, we can say, the final thing with if statements, we can say if 3 is less than 5 or something else. So for this, we're going to just put in a blatant inequality. Or not inequality, but a blatantly false statement. So it says if 3 is less than 5, we got to change this to or 9 is greater than 7, print the condition is true. Now we expect the print condition is true because 3 is indeed less than 5, even though 9 is greater than 7. So if we click run, we have the statement the condition is true. So that's basically about if loops. Now we're going to move on to conditional statements using if. Now we're going to move on to for loops. So for loops, we can start with basically it starts with like an item in a list. So for example, we type in fruits equals, let's say, apples, bananas, cherries. Oops, no quotes. Cherries. Then I can print out each item in that list by saying that. Sorry. We can print out each item in the list using the for loop for saying, if we say for item in fruits, we can just say print item. That looks like we need to go in here. Print item, so it's going to print out all the items in the list. You can also use a for loop to print out the range of a certain sequence. For example, we can say for I in range 0 to 10, print I. And we give basically print out every iteration in our range. If we go start with 0, go all the way to 10. So click run. Well, don't need this anymore. Let's get rid of that. And it'll print us out every number from 0 to 9. That's because, again, 10, once again, is not inclusive, so it will end with 10. It will not print 10. And finally, what we can do is we can specify an interval we want to count. So, for example, if we type in comma 2, basically what happened was start from 2, go up to 4, 6, 8, and 10. Well, not 10. We'll increment by 2. So we're going to click run. We have 0, 2, 4, 6, and 8 as expected. And that's basically for loops. Now the next one, the third loop we'll look at is called the while loop. Now the while loop is basically just a condition that says that while something is true, you do something else. So for example, let's say c equals 1. We're going to set a variable equal to 1. We can say something like while c is less than 5. We can say c equals c plus 1. We can do print c. And basically, we set a variable called c. Then we move to a while statement, which basically tells us that while c is less than 5, we're going to add 1 to c, and we're going to print c. Now, as long as c is less than 5, it will repeat this sort of while block. So, for example, if we click run, we started with c equals 1. We added plus 1 to c. I printed c, so it started with 2. And it went all the way up to 5 because once c was equal to 5, it stopped printing. And if c were, I guess, somehow like less than or equal to 5, it would print 6 and so forth. So it's basically a while loop. Now there are a couple things you can do. First off, is a continue function. Now the continue function basically works like this. If you click run, basically continue just basically skips over this whole section behind it. So for example, if we let's see. So for example, if we put continue after our statement, then basically nothing would happen. Let's see, sorry. So again, because we put continue after our statement, nothing basically happened. And we can also use a break. Now a break basically works like this. Okay, so our break function basically terminates the loop. So we're not going to start here because we want to see what will happen. If we left break in here, and we click run, basically nothing would happen because again this is after the loop or the break loop, and so it just basically terminates the whole loop entirely. So we, for example, with break here, basically we get it will run one time. It should run one time actually. Oh no, I'm sorry, put it in the wrong place. After we print, we want to break. So it should print once, and that's 2. Basically because we went through our while statement once. We have c, we set c equals c plus 1, c equals 2, and print c. And that was the end of our while loop. And the final example I'm going to cover in this video is going to be something called try and accept. Basically, try and accept is you try a piece of code for some syntax errors or some buggy stuff, and then you can basically surround this sort of buggy text or buggy code with the try and except function. So for example, I'll just say try, let's say 5 is less than 3. Print the condition is true. I'm sorry, I think we're gonna have to set our try. Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna use condition is true. That's right. I'm just gonna say try Bob equals. Let's go Columbia. Oops. Bob equals Columbia. And then, of course, we know this is bad syntax. We have to say Bob equals Columbia. This should be a string. So we can just try accept and type in accept. Then we'll type in this code has bad syntax. And we need to do print. Sorry, I forgot about print. Yeah, we can click run. And it gives us the fact that this code has bad syntax because Bob, this needs to be a string. We're setting a variable called Bob equal to something that's not a string. That should be a variable. And there's an unresolved issue here. Yes, that's basically the end of part 3 of my Python tutorial series. I hope you guys liked the video. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care.